Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome, folks, to the Hungry Gamers back with another game review, and today we are talking about Wingspan, designed by Elizabeth Hargrave, illustrated by Natalia Rojas, Ana Maria Martinez Jaramillo, and Beth Sobel, and published by Stonemaier Games. I do apologize if I mispronounce any of those names. Now, before I get started, please make sure you turn on your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any mistakes in the rules overview, that is where you'll find the corrections. Now, what Wingspan is it is a Euro engine building game about being a bird enthusiast. And as a bird enthusiast, you are doing your best to get the best collection of birds in your, your memory, I guess, because you're not actually collecting the birds. But whatever, at its core, it is an engine building game where each player is building up their bird engine, collecting eggs and food, and attempting to accomplish goals in order to have the most points by the end of 4 rounds. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played, just want to jump into my final thoughts, then you want to go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's very quickly talk about how this game is played. And it's actually quite simple. Each player is going to have a board just like this, and at the beginning of the game, they're going to be given 2 hidden goal cards, as you can see right here, and each one will tell you what you need to do to accomplish said goal. And they are all relatively simple once you know how the game is going to work. And you will also have these 4 different round goals. And there are many different round goals in the game. They're all slightly different, but they're going to require some combination of birds or food or eggs to be on your board at the end of each round. And whoever has the most at the end of each round will get maximum points. And I should also point out that there is a more competitive mode on the other side where only the first and second place wind up getting points. But let's talk about the core of the game, which is collecting and playing your birds. So what's going to happen is on your turn, you're going to get to take one of your cubes and place it out onto the board. And when you place it out onto the board, you're going to place it in one of these different rows. Now, if you are to place it in this row here, you're going to be collecting food. And food you're going to need to get birds out onto the board. But what's going to happen is, depending on where you've placed it, and you're going to place it as far to the left as you can. Though, if you had already placed a bird out, then rather than place it there, you would place it right over here. And it's going to tell you what you're going to get. At the top, that is food. And if you look over here at our little bird feeder dice tower, you will see that there's all this different kind of food. And every time that you either use up all of the food there, or you are to where there is only one kind of food left, in which case you have the option of re-rolling, you're going to roll all the dice, and that's going to be the type of food that you can get. So on that first action, I could simply pick one of these foods. So maybe I want to take the worms, I would remove that from there, and I would collect 1 worm into my supply. And there's a whole variety of different things that you can have. Now, what I'm using that for is to play birds. So as I mentioned already, I had 1 worm. Well, this bird here eats 1 worm. And I'll show you where I put it in just a moment. And you're going to be able to place it on your tableau based on this right here. So here I'd be able to place it into the forest, and I'll show you where that is in just a moment. Then, at the end of the game, it's going to be worth 1 point. And this here relates to the habitat, which relates to some of those in-game scoring goals and your private scoring goals. Over here it tells you what the average wingspan of the bird is, hence the title. And then a special ability. In this case, anytime it gets activated, it will do that right there. Now, I mentioned the habitat. This one I could place out here into the forest. Though there's also the wetlands and I guess the fields are other places you can place it as well. And this is how you're going to make these other actions stronger, because the more birds you have out, the more powerful the ability is going to be. Now, you'll notice up here, there's this egg cost. And the eggs are how you're going to be allowed to place those birds out. So the first one over here cost nothing, so I was able to play this bird for simply paying its food cost. But if I wanted to play here, I would have to then also place an egg, in this column also an egg, this column 2 eggs, that column 2 eggs. And you're going to get eggs down here. So if I were to take this action here, I would gain 2 eggs that I could put out onto birds that I have out on the board. And then if I wanted to lay a second bird out over here, I would have to spend 1 egg from there, and then I could place the bird out. And of course, every time you're doing this, you're placing cubes out, which is going to mark that you've had an action. Then when you are out of cubes, and everyone's out of cubes, you'll come to the end of the round, you'll evaluate who has done the best job of completing those objectives, and each player will take 1 cube and place it on the board, collect all their other cubes, and you would then enter into round 2. Now, I will also point out that there is down here, while this is where you get food, this is where you get eggs, this is where you're able to draw more cards. And as you can see at the top, you have a tableau of cards that you're able to pick from up there. And you're going to play around and around until all players have finished 4 rounds. Then you're going to total up your score, which again is going to be determined by any secret objectives that you have, by scores on birds themselves. Eggs are going to be worth points, and then the in-game scoring goals like that. And whoever has the highest score is going to win. And that's pretty much how you play this game. So, what do I like about this game? The first thing I'll say is it is intensely attractive. This is a really, really pretty game, and it's got just enough little fun facts at the bottom of each card that it's just intensely pleasant to play. This is an intensely pleasant game all the way around, no matter how you slice it. And even along with that, you have things like the cool little bird feeder dice tower, and just all of those things. It just works really well. It's very easy to organize in the box. Just all in all, a top-notch Stonemaier production. They're always nice, and this one is no exception. The art, of course, is just astounding. Just astounding. But beyond that, talking about the game itself, what you have here is a delightful engine builder. And it's simple to play. Now, this is not baby's first engine builder or anything like that, but for someone who plays hobby games, this is just, you're going to pick this up almost instantaneously. People that don't play hobby games, they'll take them 1 or 2 plays, and by then they'll figure out what's going on. And so it's not a hard game to learn. It is not as simple as like a Ticket to Ride. It's maybe 1 step up, but it is very, very satisfying because each time you play, you're going to get significantly better as you... And each time that I've played so far, my score has gone up about 20 points. So obviously eventually you're going to cap out, but you're slowly going to figure things out in what seems like a very simple game. There's a lot of depth there to it. And along with that, I think perhaps the most satisfying part of the gameplay is as you're building out your tableau of birds, and then you activate that row, suddenly you're going to activate all the birds along the row. And sometimes, if you've played your cards right, you get these really, really satisfying plays where you suddenly do one thing and you get all these resources or all this whatever it is, which is exactly what you need to score that final in-game, or excuse me, in-round scoring condition, and it just feels really, really good. Along with that, though this is a game that there is pretty much all open information, and you can almost completely look around the board and kind of math out who has what at any given time if you're smarter than I am. There are so many different paths that you can go down that though you can math it out, with the exception of the hidden information cards, at any given time, there's so many different things that people can do that really makes that much harder to do than it sounds. So even though there's very little hidden information, it's very hard for most people to figure out what is going on. So it doesn't feel like... So the game is not one that is predetermined, which is something that can happen in this type of game where you can say, oh, well, if I just do this, and they'll do this, and if they do this, then I will definitely win. It's a lot harder to do that because there's so many different things going on, which makes the game very, very satisfying to play through each time that you do it. And then the last thing that stands out to me, something that's particularly satisfying, is the way that each successive round is shorter. Yes, you're going to be doing more things each round, but you have fewer and fewer actions. So that last round, you're down 3 actions, but because each time you trigger one of your rows, you're going to be doing more and more things. It doesn't feel like you're taking fewer actions, if that makes sense. You're having the same amount of gameplay choices and the same amount of satisfaction from doing things with less actions that makes each round about the same length of time, even though you're taking less action. So you don't have what happens a lot of times in these tableau building type games where the last round is an eternity while the first round was very, very quick. And I think that really does work well. So what are my quibbles with the game? The first one thing that I'll say is there is little to no interaction with the other players around the table. Now, for me, that's okay. I actually enjoy multiplayer solitaire type games, but this is very much a multiplayer solitaire type game. Yes, some of the birds you might have might trigger off other players. Yes, you might take the food that they want or take the card that they want, but it is very much multiplayer solitaire. The next thing I'll say is, even though the birdhouse is really cool, it's actually a little bit fiddly to dump the dice in the back. It's just kind of a weird shaped thing. And again, you know, very, very quibbly there, but just something to keep in mind. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. The last thing I'll say is, as you play through the game, and as you play more and more times, you definitely do hit the feeling that you've done the whole thing relatively early. And I'm going to say that, and then immediately give the caveat that there is still a lot that you get to do. The different birds, the different setups makes it all feel different each time with different strategies, but very quickly you're like, okay, I've seen what everything here does. Now I'm about system mastery, not about discovery, if that makes sense. Now, again, I've played it several times now, and it's still fun. I still enjoy it, but I have now discovered the game, and there's not going to be a lot in there that's really going to surprise me. Now it's going to be about how can I set these things up in the best way to accomplish this goal. And for me, that's fine. But some people, they really want to have discovery every single game. They feel like the replay value goes down. I don't think the replay value goes down here, but again, just something to understand. The replay is going to be within the system mastery, not within you're going through, you're going to discover new things each time. You want to discover something new, buy one of the expansions, I guess. I don't know. But really, that's it. That is how this game works. I think if you are someone that's looking for a game to introduce some of maybe your non-heavy gamer friends to, this is a fantastic option. When I got the opportunity to review this, I can thank you Stonemeyer for that, I immediately jumped on it this time. And I had passed on it in the past because it's not necessarily my type of game. I'm like, well, I like Euro games, but I like the ones that are a little bit heavier and I don't really care about the birds or whatever. But I do have some people in my group that I thought, wow, this is the type of person that I should be trying this game out with. And they're new to playing games. And so I grabbed it and I took it and I played it mostly with them. And suddenly it's really, I can see why this game is so popular. And I enjoyed it, but I'm a kind of a snob. Oh, this was my game. But no. This is a game that you can introduce people to this hobby because even though it's easy to play this game, the mechanics that you're using of the drafting and the resource management and the tableau building, the engine building are stuff that show up in so many other games. So by playing this game, it is such an amazing gateway to other games. And if you don't want a gateway to other games, it is intensely satisfying to go back to this again and again and again. Again, if you're not worried about new discovery as you're going through. So there you have it, folks. That is Wingspan. I am very happy that I checked this one out from Stonemeyer. Thank you for watching this video. If you are just now checking out Wingspan like I am, you're kind of behind the times, but hey, we can be behind the times together. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.